Do you find responsibilities in work, family, and health too overwhelming to handle? Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Relationships, Thriving in the Balancing Act. Join physical therapist and relationship consultant Dr. Gina Williams in building stronger connections, advancing your career, and elevating your overall well-being. Here you'll find practical tips, inspiring stories, and actionable strategies for living a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast, everyone. I am Dr. Gina Williams, owner of Mobility Health Physical Therapy, a physical therapy company based in Midtown Manhattan, New York. We have concierge service. We can come to your home, or you can come to our clinic on West 29th Street. We also do telehealth physical therapy services for the tri-state. Today's guest on the podcast, Health, Wealth, and Relationships, Thriving in the Balancing Act, is Mr. Avery Nubson. Avery Nubson is such a pleasure to have on his show. Welcome to the podcast. Avery began his career in marketing and design since 2001. He thought he'd start his career creating CD-ROMs. Well, that didn't last very long. CD-ROMs went away shortly after that, and he leaned heavily into website design. That eventually then migrated into branding and marketing, where he worked with many industries, including physical therapy companies, chiropractors, and beverage companies. During that time, he wrote and illustrated 3 award-winning children's books: Pandas Paint in Pajamas, Even Pretty Girls Fart, and Explorosaurus ABCs. However, partway in his career, he was rear-ended and suffered a traumatic brain injury and had chronic pelvic pain that he had to deal with and overcome. And he has an amazing story of recovery still while trying to transition into his own business. Welcome to the podcast, Avery. It's such a pleasure to have you. Everyone, you're in for such a treat. An amazing businessman, an amazing man, and such a resilient personality in his recovery with all his history of things, and a champion. It is in our corner right now. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So let's dive right in. I mean, Avery, your background is it in marketing, or did you think about that first, or what did you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do something with art. And like ever since I was a kid, it was like art or science, or art or science, and I ended up going into the arts. And but I didn't want to be an artist. I ended up being doing a multimedia, so being like a multimedia artist. And I thought what I was going to be doing was going to be creating like CD-ROMs. So this was like back in the late 90s when computers actually had a CD drive, and like
Yes, everyone who is born after the 90s, this was the cool thing that everybody used back then.
and content came to you on a CD, and I remember getting them like in the mail, and I'd stick it in there, and there'd be like music videos and like little clips of other stuff and all this like cool stuff on there. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. Like when I got into high school, and I was like, yeah, that's, trying to learn all this new technology. Once I got done with school, like CD-ROMs were kind of done for. And I kind of just migrated into doing web development. And that led me into doing more web development, graphic design, still a little bit of multimedia, but not as much. And then eventually that kind of led into more of a marketing role. So anything from like branding, like company logos, to like their overall messaging, to advertising, and kind of anything that fits under that, like that marketing umbrella. Kind of had a little bit of a hand in. And so, but for me, like it's always the visuals. I was like, well, how do things look? I want things to look cool. I want things to look good. And then it's like, what do you want? What do we want to do with it? Do we want to do video work, or do we want to do radio ads, or do we want to do like a printed piece? So I've done a wide range of stuff from that. And a lot of my clients in the past have been like physical therapy clinics, to like smaller other medical practices, to like counselors, massage therapists. So I've always kind of had a little bit in the hand, like on the health side too, with some of the marketing stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
Um, but now, like going back into the art, I've also written and illustrated 3 children's books.
And he's downplaying things. Award-winning, amazing children's books. I mean, he's got the art piece and the creativity piece, and able to make a wonderful books for children to read.
Yeah, my first book is called Pandas Paint in Pajamas. It's an animal alphabet book, just full of funny alliterations, where every animal is wearing human clothes, doing something animals don't normally do. And so I would go to schools, I would read the books, and like that was really fulfilling. And I had a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. And like I self-published them back in a time where self-publishing was really, really hard to do. Like the first book came out in 2008. And so Amazon really wasn't around as like Create Space or print on demand. And what I was looking for was full color and I wanted hardcover. So both of those two things also weren't in the print on demand, just they weren't available. And so
Oh,
I printed overseas, figured out how to print 1,500 copies overseas, how to do the barcode and the ISBN number and like all of that stuff. And ended up getting a case of it was like a pallet's worth of books then
yes, I
that
can
got
imagine.
delivered, and there was about 40 copies in a case. Each case weighed about 40 pounds.
Could imagine how heavy that was. I mean, people, we're so lucky these days, but it's not so long ago when you think about the early 2000s. But
Mhm.
literally, we were doing things like cavemen and women trying to get things done. But it's so remarkable that all those pieces you were able to put together for yourself and your publishing. That's remarkable. That alone is a whole other business you could have helped people with at that time, because finding the resources was such a challenge then.
Yeah, especially at that time, it was really hard. And I did do a couple of other people's books as well. I've kind of helped them. Like I didn't do the art for them, but I helped them figure out. I'll manage your printing for you, so you don't have to talk to these agencies that are overseas. Like the biggest challenge was like, okay, I just sent you a check for 8 grand or whatever. Am I going to get my books in 6 months? I don't know.
Yes, like, "Wait, fingers crossed,"
Yeah.
you know? Oh
Because
god.
then once they're printed, then they have to come over by boat, and that takes a long time. And then once they got here by boat, I'm in Minneapolis. And at the time I actually lived in Fargo, which is
Oh,
even further north. But so they landed in California, and then they took a train from California to Chicago, and then I think they went to my final destination by semi truck.
oh,
And luckily, like the company that I use, they figured out all of that stuff, so I didn't have to do that portion of it.
yeah, but
Um,
still quite a journey to get your book, you know? Wow, unbelievable. So Avery, tell me a little bit about your personal journey, and also discuss, how your creative designs help you, have some income during the time of your healing as well.
Actually, 2014. I was rear-ended in a car accident. I was sitting at a red light, and a tow truck hit me from behind and kind of smashed me into the car in front of me. And I've had just ongoing, chronic pain from that and, a traumatic brain injury and, like, a bunch of weird stuff that kinda has come and gone, but, I'm still going through 'cause, part of my injuries were, like, pelvic floor injuries, so I'm still even doing pelvic floor physical therapy for that even 11 years later, and but being a business owner and having all of those injuries, it's kind of like you don't know who you are anymore. And also being a husband and like, it's like I lost my sense of self and my sense of worth and like everything was just gone. And I had a lot of anger issues after the accident and just couldn't like I couldn't do basic math and I couldn't do basic functions. And at some point, because I was doing a lot of web development at that time, I couldn't understand what I was looking at. Like I was I was doing some back end coding on the site like the day before, and like a couple of days later, I'm doing it again, and I didn't know what was what.
Couldn't recognize your own work even. Unbelievable. And I'm glad that, you're very open about the different types of emotions that you felt because each emotion is okay to feel, but often we don't express and share, when things happen to us and injury, our body and our mind go through all these different feelings and they're all appropriate in different stages. And sometimes you feel good one day and then you're not as good another day and it's all okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges is it's like, is this all in my head? Am I making it all up? I feel fine now, but then like in a week, am I not going to feel fine? Is my pain going to be there? If it's gone, what's happening now? It's like your body just gets so confused, and then that really throws off your mind. So like you wake up that morning, you don't know what the day's going to be like. You don't know if you're going to have a good day or a bad day, and like being a business owner, you don't really get to take days off.
That is so true. It's a 24-hour, 7 days a week, the business, you are the business. So
Yeah, and
how did your partner, your wife help or were you able to discuss that with her, having the traumatic brain injury to say, this is what we should do next? Or did she take the reins? Did you go to the counselor recommended? How did you come across that bridge?
yeah, and I mean, nothing happened really quickly. I mean, except for the accident that happened like in a few seconds. But everything after that took forever. It felt like, and even when I realized like wasn't able to do the work, I still kept it hidden and tried to pretend like I could do it, and that just ended up making our clients frustrated, and I was frustrated. My wife and I worked together at that time, and we still do because we started our business in 2008. And so this was about like 5 years into our business,
Business, yes.
and things were going great up to that point. And but I didn't have the courage or the heart to tell her I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing, and so hiding that just made everything worse. And I thought, because when I went to the ER, the doctor's like, you know what, you're young, you're gonna bounce back, you'll be fine, like in a couple weeks. Well, weeks and then months and then eventually years rolled by, and things weren't really getting better. And I started counseling probably about a year after the accident, and
And
that
did you
helped.
start the counseling because you felt you needed it, or were you just looking for somebody to talk to at that time?
I think a little bit of both. That like somebody to talk to. Like I was starting to lose friends, and my family was kind of like just disappeared. They just thought I would be fine and just things would be back to normal, and that
Wow.
wasn't happening. And so like the counseling started out just one-on-one sessions for myself. I think it was a couple of times a week. And that helped a lot to get things going. But then my relationship with Amy started to get rockier and rockier and rockier. And we did eventually go to couples counseling, I think about 3 years into it. And at that point, because at one point Amy looked at me and said, I love you, but if things don't change, I'm gonna leave. And that's when I realized how bad things were. I was just in my head so much of the day thinking, I can't do my work. I'm worthless. I have no like purpose anymore. And I
Wow.
didn't realize how bad things have gotten for everybody else around me too. Like me.
Well, it takes a strong partner and a strong relationship, to for your wife to come to you and actually say, "Hey, something's going on. We need to do something about it." Especially, her knowing that you're recovering and you're not your usual self every day. And
Mhm.
that's remarkable that you guys were able to come to a middle ground and say, "Hey, let's do something about this. We care about each other." You
Yeah.
mentioned like being in the ER and some not being acknowledged completely or being said like maybe, oh, you'll get better. Oftentimes when you are younger and or if your injury is not seen on the exterior, there are
Mhm.
often these discriminations that many people face, and I've actually faced that myself. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you were able to be heard?
Well, in the ER, that I had a little bit of neck pain and like a little bit of like shoulder pain after the accident, and that was it. But things even a month later is when like the pelvic pain started, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, and it took me probably 6 more months after that to find like help. And but I didn't know what was happening, and they just said, "Hey, you're going to be fine. Go home, take some ibuprofen." But then that didn't. It wasn't fine. And even with the brain injury, it was still, I think, about 4 years later that I was able to get a diagnosis of having one.
Wow, 4
And
years.
it was a battle. It was like I had to advocate for my own health a lot. And that's really hard to do when you are already in a lot of pain and you're already feeling like your world around you is like crumbling. And then the last thing you need to do is like kind of stand up for yourself to all the people that are supposed to be experts and guiding you. And you're like, but you're not really listening to what I'm saying. I think I do need some more treatment or I do need something else. And they're like, oh, you're going to be fine. You can go home.
Oh gosh. And so what would you recommend for someone in a similar situation of struggling to be heard by the practitioners around them?
I think if possible, keep looking for somebody. Now, when I lived in Fargo at the time, like there was only one public health person,
Mhm.
and so if I didn't find like a good one, that was the only option. I did find somebody that was really good. Their practice ended up actually bringing in a lot more pelvic health people and training a lot in that Fargo area. There's about 250 people, 250,000 people that live in the area, so it's not super huge, but there's enough people there that there could be a need for that. Um, but if you have the option to look around, definitely do it. From moving to Fargo, I moved to the Minneapolis area, which is about 4 hours south. A lot much bigger population, but I've had to go through lots of different pelvic health therapists only because I haven't found one that hasn't been as great as some of the other ones I've had in the past, or insurance issues where they're like, okay, well, insurance is only going to allow us to see you for a short amount of time, and then you have to like take a break, and then you have to come back, and or there's been turnover. So there's been just a lot more challenges with keeping consistent care with somebody with the same person. So it's almost like you're just always going back and
Mhm.
explaining the story again, explaining this is what
Yeah.
in the past, this is what I want to continue doing going forward. It's like really just it's a lot. If you give up, then you kind of lose. So the option is to not give up.
Going, yes, yeah. That's so important for everyone to hear. And so with all these challenges and things going on with your health, how were things financially?
Um, yeah, because I was really the main source of income for the business. Um, Amy sold projects, then I did the projects, especially a web development or something that needed some programming or coding. And so if that wasn't happening, and then some of our customers were like, this isn't getting done, we want a refund. Financially, things were just getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually we were able to turn it around and like get out of the medical debt that we had accumulated. But it took a lot of effort and a lot of like discipline on top of everything we were already going through too.
Yes, yes. So what was the pivot point? How were you able to turn it around? Help us, understand a little bit more about that.
It's somewhere in the middle of all that. We read a business book called Profit First, and it kind of put your business profit and expense formula backwards. So instead of like expense, like revenue minus expenses equals profit, it was revenue minus profit equals expenses. So you would take your profit out and distribute that into different like savings accounts.
Pay
If you
yourself
have
first.
one, yeah, you would pay yourself first, you would pay your taxes and then your savings, and then everything else you would get your expenses to fit for what you had left over. And that was a big part of it, was to do that. A few other things that helped too. I was able to qualify for Minnesota Care, which is Minnesota-based health insurance because of the accident and the injuries. So that helped without having a huge insurance expense. And it took some time, but we sold our house. Part of the thing that happened with the recovery is I kind of fell in love with traveling. And traveling is really hard when you're in pain, but it was worth it. And so in 2018, we sold our house to travel more, and that helped as well. Now we had some like income to travel, and that was a big chunk of just kind of getting that stuff paid off as well.
Yeah, that's a good way. I mean, if you're stuck to one place and you have those expenses, it is hard to manage. But if you're and also for travel, like visiting different places puts your mind in a different place. You're seeing new things. You're not perseverating or focused on, your healing so much, but your mental will help you heal because you're exploring a place that you've always wanted to go or a place that
Mhm.
you love to visit. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the type of traveling we would do is we would drive from northern Minnesota or all the way across the country. We drove to near Pensacola. We'd spend a few months there. So we would do it in the wintertime because like the cold winters, I couldn't handle anymore with like as soon as it got cold, my pain would just flare up. And then like there'd be ice everywhere and snow everywhere. And like I didn't want to slip and injure myself some more. So one of the things we got to do was go away from the cold for a certain amount of time. And we did that for 6 years, 6 winters in a row. And then a goal of ours was to spend our 20th anniversary, which happened in 2020 in Europe.
Oh,
We
that's
didn't get to go to Europe that year, but we did in 2023. And so we spent 3 months in Europe. So
nice.
we did
Yeah,
6 years of winter traveling, and then we did a 3-month European trip. And this last year we just did a short trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So our third time going there. We were there for about 10 days, but
wow. Well, that's beautiful. That's amazing. So how do you work on nurturing meaningful relationships, like personally and professionally, regardless of what you have going on, and not being overwhelmed?
sometimes it's kind of like my counselors would say something like, how full is your cup? Like, maybe today you only have an 8-ounce cup and you can't take on extra stuff. So I'm kind of just feeling my energy, feeling my body. Like, do I feel like I can do more today than I could yesterday? Or do I feel like today is going to be overwhelming with what I already have to do, and leave it at that and just be like, that's okay. I know I can do something the next time. And I mean, during like the worst of my recovery, I missed out on a lot of family stuff and a lot of social stuff just because I didn't have the capacity to drive 3 hours to go do a family weekend thing, or even sometimes I didn't want to drive across town and do something with friends just because it was just too much. And so it's really just knowing what you can do. And I mean, luckily I was self-employed, or still am self-employed, and I have the flexibility to give myself that kind of freedom. But having like a job somewhere, maybe I wouldn't have been able to do that as well.
Yeah, you were lucky to be able to give yourself grace in both the amount of work you did and even commitments. And sometimes we internally feel obligated to make it to every event or do every task in our job, but understanding that we time for ourselves is not counted as not showing up. It's showing up for ourselves.
Yeah, and I just know now if I push through something, I probably am going to screw something up, and I will just have to fix it the next day. So it's kind of like,
That's true. Yes. So
yeah,
lower your limits and, giving yourself breaks whether it's a retreat or a drive or just taking a nap or listening to music just to change things can really help, you know, prolong your well-being and make you more productive the next day.
hmm One thing I did a lot of too during that was I did a lot of meditation, and I typically did meditation kind of after the workday, and I had guided meditations I would listen to. A lot of them were like getting out of pain meditation or kind of that sort of that sort of a theme. And so they were like some of them were an hour, some of them were 20 minutes. It just depended on which one I felt like I could go through and do. And so after work, after supper, I would do that. And the other thing I spent a lot of time doing, because I do have a minor in oil painting from college, and so I got back into doing oil painting.
Wow.
I really got back into oil painting and journaling, and I did spend a lot of time like listening to music. Somehow, after the accident, my taste in music changed
Oh,
almost
that's interesting.
completely. Like I used to listen to like rock or like folk music, and now I listen to more like reggae and like hip hop music, which
Okay.
didn't listen to at all before,
Not
and
complaining. I like
now I
all
do.
rock and reggae, hip hop.
Yeah, and like so now I have this like wide, diverse type of
Yeah,
music that I
that's
listen to, and I
dope.
like to listen to music from other cultures. It's like you can experience how life is for somebody who isn't you, and music is a good way to do that.
It gives you a big perspective. That's awesome. And so, did you meditate before your accident? Is that something that you used to do, or is that something that you added on post injury?
I did it off and on. I had gone through like some meditation courses and things where it was really it was like really every day for I think like at the same time every day, and it was a guided meditation. I think that program was like a year, and then I didn't do it for a long time, and then I kind of would just do it every so often. But after the accident, I really focused on it, and like my counselors recommended doing that, or my PTs recommended doing that too, because they're like your nervous system is just so ramped up. Your body doesn't know how to like turn itself off and relax. So try meditation. Try, you know, try taking a hot bath. Try doing some of these different things that are more gentle. I was really active before the crash too. Like I would do a lot of long bike rides or inline roller skating or mostly bike rides. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff like that too, and I couldn't do it afterwards. So I beat myself up for not being able to be as active as I was before. I mean, I could barely get around the block for the first year of the accident. My body just hurt so much.
But how did you continue? I mean, sometimes, someone may get depressed with the fact that they're not as active as they were before, and they're still stuck in that phase where they haven't, reached the goal of being active again. What made you stay resilient?
I think part of what I did was I changed the level of activity. And maybe instead of biking or mountain biking or road biking, I do a little more stand up paddleboarding.
Oh, okay, that's cool too.
I mean, I'm in Minnesota. There's lakes everywhere, right?
Yeah, that's
uh,
awesome.
so that's something I can do that's low impact. It's not hard to travel with. I have one that's inflatable so I can like roll it up when I'm done and throw it in the car. Hiking, as me and Amy would travel, we would look for places that we can both hike, and I got used to hiking and moving a lot more that way. And then she got over her fear of heights because we went to places that typically had a higher elevation. So,
Cool.
and that was something that we could do together. Like we didn't really do a lot of those activities together before. Like the biking I did on my own, and but the hiking we can do together. And
That's
so I was just looking for like little shifts in what I can do. I might not be able to bike again. I've tried a few times. I just didn't find it as enjoyable. So now it's like,
Yeah, find things that
okay.
are enjoyable. So definitely you're thriving in the balancing act, finding what works for you and pushing forward. That's so amazing. Thank you so much, Avery. So if any listeners want to find out more about you and your work, where should they go?
My website is newfirecollective.com. It's NUFIRE collective.com. So it's a kind of a play off of my last name, which is Nubson, Nubson, and then kind of like creating new and with the new fire, like a new fiery energy. So
Yes, creating new fire in your business and in your life. Amazing. And if anyone listening wants to hear more of this podcast, please go to mobilityhealthpt.com. Thank you so much, Avery. Have a wonderful evening.
thank you. You as well.
That's all for this episode. May this discussion full of actionable tips and valuable advice guide you towards better possibilities in your personal and professional life. Continue your journey of unlocking your fullest potential by listening to more episodes of the podcast at mobilityhealthpt.com. Achieving stronger relationships, securing a thriving career, and embracing a healthier lifestyle may be daunting at first, but it is not impossible. You have the power to unleash the best version of you today. Until next time.